Are you responsible for all the negativity that you experience around you, that you witness around you? Can you say that all the negativity that you find yourself surrounded with is down to you manifesting it? Is that what it means, that you have attracted that kind of negativity? No, not really. For us to witness what already exists, for us to witness the realities of existence, because the realities of existence can be so many, for us to be able to witness it all is different from when we are experiencing existence, therefore making something our reality. We make something our reality when that which already exists has an impact on us, or that which already exists feels something to us, that it creates in us a response towards it. So you might say, I'm going through a spiritual awakening, but what about what is happening all around us in the world? We hear the news, we watch things, we hear about things, and so many of you ask, well, did I manifest this? What role or what part did I have in bringing this about? Your role in bringing this about is only insofar as how it directly impacts you, or rather, what it is that brings it as a reality to you. What is your response and reaction to it, that it is becoming enlivened in you? Now, if it is something that is surrounding you and you're a witness to it, it is not the same as something that is surrounding you but has now become your experience, through it becoming a part of you. So it becomes a part of you when we react to it by thought, by emotion, and then making it historical through memory inside of us, that, hey, this is what I went through. And so you might find some of you who've got grandparents or your elders, and you sit with them and they'll give you a historical account. This is what we went through during these times. Now, those that may have been impacted by certain things, they will have a very different way of explaining the same set of historical events. They'll have a very different idea about it because they would have been impacted differently, and that impact is what determines that this is what my experience is of this. Now folks, remember, the impact is not the same as if you then become involved. Now say, for example, this is just for illustration, if there is a war, and during the war you have some of you who's, like, say your father goes or your brother goes to serve as part of the military and some of you will have relatives or somebody who gets injured, who becomes debilitated as a result of the war. So we lose our loved ones, and everybody will have a different impact. Now, whatever that impact that has taken place will then go on to shape their future. Now, if that impact has been felt quite physically, for example, a loss of a loved one. Now, if it is a loss of a loved one and that surrounding negativity, say for example, is a war, and that we're perceiving it as a negativity, so it's a war and we are a war victim. When you are identified with that that is what has happened, and therefore I'm now the war victim, or we've experienced this loss as a result of the war. Your take on it is going to be very different when you go through a spiritual awakening. So this is very similar to if you're surrounded with a family in a spiritual awakening. See, a lot of us, a lot of you, right? Not all of you, but some of us will have gone through experiences where we are surrounded with very toxic family members, and we continue to be. But the impact they had had before was to shape us and for us to develop our belief systems and all else. But after a spiritual awakening, that no longer has that impact because you've deconstructed that. Now, similarly, with your environment, if you're surrounded with that negativity, we've given that example of, say, for example, a war. Yeah. Now, if the impact, whatever it was, the direct impact, say you lost a limb, you lost a loved one, right? You can look at it as that whatever it is, that I have lost somebody, yeah, or it can then start to define you, therefore define what war means, and then lead on to a feeling of helplessness, a feeling of being a victim to what surrounds us, that it is more powerful in shaping our reality of us. So that impact has that power to then create future realities or future experiences, right? On the other hand, if you have an experience of other dimensions, other portals, and you've opened up to something else, then the impact of the very same thing, it could be the exact same thing, the loss of a loved one, or that, in that same example, it will not be felt at the same level, or the interpretation of it will not be felt. So though there would have been a direct impact physically, there hasn't been an impact enough to imprint you. Yeah. So to imprint you means to then define and further define your consciousness. So we can be surrounded by what seems like a whole load of negativity, a whole load of density, yet remain unaffected by it. So that you might feel compassion, or you might look and you might witness it, right? Without owning it. You don't take ownership of it, or you don't make it part of you. So when you make it part of you is when we become entangled in it. So it's a bit like if a friend came to you and said, this is what has happened to me. And you feel for your friend, you feel the empathy, you feel the compassion, and you don't want your friend to go through that. It could be your parents, your loved ones, your children. They come to you, yeah, and you feel for them. You really feel for them, right? But you don't make that experience of theirs yours. You are a neutral bystander, still compassionate, still feeling, right, the pain. In fact, you might even be able to empathize with that person. But that empathy will not make the other person's experience your own. And when it does, and this is where so many of us, when we are healers, empaths, you're on this path, you then take it on, and then we end up feeling drained, we end up feeling all sorts of things because we've just made that ours. It is not that you've made that experience yours at that point in time, but that experience has pulled a string in you that says, but this is also my experience, not factually. So not the circumstances of that experience, but the vibe of that experience is something that you can resonate with, but something that pulls the strings inside of you saying, hey, even I own that. And so you own that reality, you own that piece of existence and make it your experience because of a historical experience or historical occurrence in us, which sits in our memory bank, the memory in our cells. Yeah, the memory not just in this physical body, but the memory in the consciousness that we hold. The memory which is the result, which is the blueprint of all of our various life forms, various realities, and that we are holding on to that. So there might be another life, another parallel, another dimension in which you've experienced this. So it may not even be something that you can recall right away, but it might be something which makes it ours. Yeah. So it is not even that you're calling upon these things to you, but there are things inside of us that we have experienced well before we were aware of it. And this is where now, when you're spiritually awakening, when you've gone into the depth of your awakening, you can access a dimension or a portal where time does not exist. And that where time does not exist is what we say, that we are now in the current of existence, which is happening right now. So whatever is always happening right now. There is never really anything that is happening back then, but it is always happening right now. Even if you were to get into a time machine, whatever you're going to experience in that time machine, if you're going to a different time, a linear time, is also going to be just happening right now, in that time, in that parallel, in that dimension. Yeah. So as you deepen your spiritual awakening, and now you can be timeless. So this is when that memory, or that your modus operandi is no longer the memory, but rather your infinity, your timelessness. And it won't just come with us saying, oh yes, but it's all in the past. No, you're going to work it out. You work it out yourself. So there's no bypassing. So every time there is something that is deeply affecting us and impacting us, that then becomes part of us, or it was always part of us, and it's pulling at the strings of what's inside that is magnetizing this thing toward us. Yeah. So there's a lot here, folks. You're not necessarily creating. All that already exists. What we are co-creating rather is our reaction to it, our response to it, our experience of it, not it. So it's like saying the it has always been there. We've always been there. But what we are experiencing are the layers that then just become more and more layers. Yeah, that ultimately is what we call ashes to ashes. They're going to go. The layers go. So, see, when you light an incense, the ashes fall away, but what is left is just the fragrance. So similarly, when you then go through your spiritual awakening, what is then left is just the fragrance of you. Just the fragrance. Sending you so much love, giving you something to ponder. And remember, folks, wherever you are a gift. You're a beautiful being, full of everything, here to experience this beautiful staged reality that we call reality. Sending you lots of